Alan, welcome to another edition of The Morning Serve. Emma Lawrence alongside Sam Stosur. Sam, about halfway through the tournament now, getting to the pointy end, so let's take a little moment to reflect. Has there been anything or anyone that's really surprised you so far this tournament?
Well, I think there's been a bunch of surprises, at least on paper, as far as, knockouts of the high-seeded players, at least on the women's side of the draw. So, been lots of upsets, lots of youngsters coming through, lots of, long matches that one day on Thursday, I believe it was. So, it's had it all.
We have all of the Grand Slams here on Nine's Wide World of Sports, so who in particular, I will get you to single out someone, who do we need to really keep an eye out for throughout the rest of this year?
Look, I think Sabalenka, I know she's already 2 in the world, she's won a slam, but I think she's definitely someone to watch this year. I think she's got huge potential to potentially win one, maybe even more Grand Slams this year. She came very close last year to winning multiples, and so far with her form, I'd be watching her on every single surface.
All right, let's talk about the games later on this afternoon. Carlos Alcaraz, world number 2, kind of hasn't really got out of second gear so far, and he's up against Miomir Kekmanovic, who's just come off 2 5-setters.
Yep.
How does he recover from that?
That's a good question. He's battling hard out there every single match, day in, day out, whereas Alcaraz, he obviously had the retirement in the 3rd set, and he was pretty cruisy up until that point anyway. So, look, Alcaraz, he's always like a jack in the box. He's got so much energy all the time. Kekmanovic is going to have to use some of that from his end of the court, I think, to make it a real contest.
What sort of weapons do you think Kekmanovic does have that might be able to be some sort of a threat to Alcaraz?
Well, I think anyone playing the likes of Alcaraz, obviously everyone's a very good baseliner. Everyone hits the ball well, generally move pretty well, but you've got to be able to sustain that for over the course of potentially 5 sets against these guys. And I think Alcaraz's level is just that little bit higher, so I think he's going to have to play probably one of the matches of his lives. But hey, we've seen it happen here before, so you never know. But I think Alcaraz is going to be kind of in the driver's seat for this one.
And then Alcaraz, on his side of the draw, has Zverev and Medvedev. Out of those 2, who poses the bigger threat to the world number 2?
Well, both of those guys actually have got pretty good head-to-heads against Alcaraz. So he's won some, lost some. There's been some close battles. But look, I think it's always going to be one match at a time. I think going in with recent form and probably being able to keep some energy in the tank, he's probably, I would say, have the upper hand against Zverev coming into this next one. And then Medvedev, you just never know. He's incredible on these courts. He loves playing here. He's had a better result here. Played more here, actually, than Alcaraz. We've got to remember, he's only really burst onto the scene in the last couple of years and only played here, I think, once before. So for Alcaraz, it's still pretty fresh here at the Australian Open, whereas Medvedev has proven himself that he can make finals and go super close to winning them.
And what about for Zverev? How impressed have you been with the fact that there's been a lot of noise around him and that court case going on back home, and he has been asked about it a lot? The fact that he's been able to compartmentalise that and still perform on the court?
Yeah, some players have this uncanny ability just to really, all right, once I'm on the court, that's like your safe space, you stay between the lines and nothing else really bothers you. So it's an incredible ability to be able to do that, obviously, with everything that is going on. It's quite, impressive to see that he's been able to get through some of these long battles too. When things get tough out there, that's when you expect to see maybe a few more cracks, but so far he's been able to handle it very well.
And up against Cam Norrie now, how do you see this one playing out?
Well, Cam's a quality opponent. I think Cam's, lefty, hits his backhand exceptionally flat. He might be able to put Zverev into some more uncomfortable positions. So, I think Zverev will get the better of him, but Cam, he's been up there. He can make things difficult, but I think Zverev's going to have the upper hand.
Nuno Borges into the 4th round, and I mean, no disrespect by saying this, but where has he come from? Honestly, really made a name for himself so far this tournament and made everyone stand up and pay attention. Yeah,
well, he certainly has. I loved his celebration the other night when he fell on the ground and looked. I was like, did I just do that? This is unbelievable. So never made it past the 2nd round in any single event. So the first time to do that in a slam is just phenomenal for him. Look, he's top 70 in the world, so he's obviously been playing on tour long enough to get that sort of ranking. But the guys with their tournaments on the ATP Tour, they've got lots of tournaments also on the Challenger circuit. So I dare say he's probably played a lot of those smaller tournaments, those Challengers, got his ranking up. Now he's, on the main stage. He's new to it, he's fresh. We don't know much about him, but boy, it's been exciting to see him rise. And that win against Dimitrov, I think, shows that he is a player to watch. He's got the sort of game and quality that can beat an informed Dimitrov.
And then can he beat Medvedev?
I mean, that's another
Yeah.
leap again. But hey, at this point in time, he's just riding the wave. Why not? He's got absolutely nothing to lose. He's playing, a Grand Slam champion in Medvedev. But yeah, different kettle of fish playing Medvedev compared to Dimitrov.
And on the women's side of the draw, Qinwen Zheng, John Millman said a couple of days ago, that's the player to watch. He singled her out. What do you like about her as a player, and what style of player is she?
Yeah, I think the Chinese tennis in the past, you've always thought of being very consistent. They're a bit sort of robotic. They all sort of play the same with their training system. But she's sort of a little bit different. She's got some different variety. She's a bit more flary than your typical, what we've seen in the past. And yeah, she's had a fantastic last 6 to 12 months. So definitely rising up the ranks, and Chinese tennis has been inspired with the likes of Li Na over the years. So yeah, she's their next player now who's taking that mantle.
Do you think on her side of the draw, which seems to have opened up, she is a red hot chance now? Could this be the year we see her lifting a trophy?
Look, I think this half of the draw certainly has
Yeah.
opened up. I think the other half, I think the winner's going to come from the other half. But look, as soon as you go deep in these tournaments, if you're in quarters or semis, yes, there's favourites, but sometimes these tournaments, they always throw up a complete surprise packet. So, they've got great support here, the Chinese players, and like I said, she's riding it. She keeps getting better and better with each month that goes by. So it's exciting for Chinese tennis.
You mentioned the fact that you do think Chinese tennis is in a good spot, but overall, how would you assess where it's at, how far it's come, and the improvements still to come?
Well, yeah, there certainly is. Probably 15 years ago or so, they were very focused on having good doubles players. Team won the gold medal in Beijing, so that was like their fairy tale. And then, like I mentioned before, Li Na, one of my old doubles partners, Peng Shuai. So got to know a few of the Chinese players and how they sort of operate with things. And it's a little bit different to how we might do it back here in Australia, but they produce, really tough competitors, very good hitters of the ball. They compete well, and they're always tough to beat because they're there every single point. So yeah, Chinese tennis, it's always going to be good. And now the men are actually starting to come through as well. The guys that always sort of stayed in China and played more Chinese league tennis, whereas the women sort of hit the world stage, and now we're starting to see some of the men's tennis come through. So all in all, they got some pretty good players already now in the top 100.
Do you think that Peng Shuai saga stalled the momentum at all?
Not necessarily
No.
on the court. Obviously, it's not something we ever want to see, but look, I think the players and the system doesn't seem to have stopped. Now tennis is getting back into China. They're playing events there again now. So, yeah, I think they're moving forward.
And how good is this for a stat? So we've got 3 Ukrainian women into the 4th round for the first time in the Open era.
Yep.
How incredible is it to have seen this, I guess, next generation of Ukrainian players coming through?
Oh, look, they're great players. All of them that are left are fantastic. And I don't know whether it's not necessarily coincidence that given what's going on back home for them, there's extra feeling, there's extra drive to, have something good and positive to talk about. I do feel like they all, really wear it on their shoulders. They're all very obviously patriotic and are trying to do anything that they can for their families and friends and the rest of their country back home. So I think anytime any of the Ukrainian girls win, you always kind of like, good for you, because you want to see them be able to have something to celebrate with what's going on right now.
So do you think there is that part that they genuinely, everyone wants to win, but that extra few percent because of what's going on back home, because you're so desperate to do it for everyone else?
I have no doubt, no doubt in my mind. And again, your Svitolinas and your Stremska, Kostya, all of them have actually always been very vocal about it. I know Svitolina's had a couple of different charity drives and open days and things to try and raise money, and they've all, I think, donated money from their prize money back home. So they want to do that. They, the more matches they win, the more they can give back. So I think it's phenomenal what they're doing and how they can also go out there and just focus on their tennis and do that. I don't know how it's possible, but they've seemed to have been able to work it out, and they stick together and really support, their country and what they can do.
They seem to be, as you said, managing it so far, but does it come to a point where if they go deep and there's that extra emotion, it weighs on them a bit, or?
Well, I mean, potentially that is always a bit of a, risk, I guess, in some ways. I kind of want to say we saw that a little bit with Svitolina in the Wimbledon semi-final, as everything just got a bit too much at that moment. But you're also in the semis of a Grand Slam, so whether it's this or that, who knows? But at the end of the day, they're all just trying to strive and go out there and do the best they can, for themselves and, like I said, for all the people back in their home.
Svitolina now up against Linda Noskova, who caused that upset over Iga Swiatek, the world number one. What impressed you most about young Noskova?
Well, just the fact that she went out there for the win. She got the slight sniff and opening against Iga and was able to take it. It was pretty, Iga sort of travelling 6-3. It was even in the second set, and within a few minutes, all of a sudden, we were at a set all, and she was playing big tennis. I feel like the adjustment she made was to be more aggressive against the world number one, and it kept paying off and paid dividends. And as soon as she got to a real winning position deep in the third, she served it out, hit some big serves to win the game, and I think that's what impressed me most, is that somebody, for the first time being in that position at 19 years of age against the world number one, she didn't get scared, she didn't get tentative, she didn't wait for Iga to lose the match, she actually went out there and won it. So it was a really impressive performance, and we've seen her win tournaments here before in Australia, in Adelaide last year, so I think she likes playing here.
What about for Iga? Do you think, was it genuinely that much of a shock? Just given she looked a little bit shaky in the round before and had mentioned she was already checked out at the airport. Did we see signs that she wasn't at her best?
Look, it's hard to bring your absolute best every single day, but obviously the top players and world number ones, they're mediocre sometimes is often enough to get through. Having said she was, I find it interesting that she said she was half checked out and back at the airport already, but coming back from 4-1, she was obviously thinking somewhat about what she had to be doing, but there's always, I think there is bits of vulnerability in her game at certain times, and I think it showed against Daniil, somebody who really went after her, and then, she got out of that, but then could she do it again? And against a fearless youngster, she couldn't. So I'm sure there's going to be bits and pieces that she's going to look back on and think, okay, where do I need to go? How do I rectify some of my performances? It's hard to win every week. You're number one in the world. You've got the target on your back every single time you step out on court. So it's not always the easiest position to be in.
And for Noskova, what does that say, I guess, about where Czech tennis is at and the young ones coming through alongside her?
Czech tennis has been so strong for a number of years. I could list 12 players, in 3 seconds, of Grand Slam champions, doubles champions, and they could have 2 or 3 different Billie Jean King Cup teams. So very, very strong, and I think that's why we're seeing now Noskova and some of these other younger ones, the Furvatova sisters, coming through, because they've got so many great idols at the top of the game, always through every generation. It really inspires and I think drives them to be the next one, because they've got to be so good to be the top player in their country. But they're doing something right in the Czech Republic, that's for sure.
And just finally, Victoria Azarenka, a champion here back in 2012 and 2013. Given that side has opened up a little bit, can you see her being a champion here once again?
Look, anything's possible. She knows what it takes, and especially here in Australia, this is where she's had the most success of her career. Obviously, 10, 11 years later, it's quite phenomenal to think that she's still got another possibility. She's in the side of the draw where a lot of the seeds have been knocked out. I think it's going to be her or Svitolina to probably move through, but she was very impressive in her last match against Ostapenko. She was serving really big. That's what probably impressed me the most, was her first serve, how much pace she was getting on it. And like we've come to see with Azarenka, her return game, her stance, second serve returns, you cannot get away with dropping anything short. She just ate it up. So she's playing very, very well at the moment. I think it's going to be, one of her probably best chances to really, really go deep and try and push for another slam.
So many storylines to be written as always. Sam, appreciate your time, and
you.
we will see everyone tomorrow for another edition of The Morning Serve.
Wide World of Sports is your home of the Australian Open.
With highlights of every match of the AO, the on-court interviews, and every day with the Morning Serve, you'll be ahead of the game.
So click that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing this Australian Open.